Holler at the Historic Grandin Theatre is a live storytelling series that's the brainchild of Roanoker Lee Hunsaker. The theme for this episode is the body. Tellers share tales of lost limbs, negative attitudes about our own bodies, and how to overcome medical and psychological adversity. Blue Ridge PBS Echo is pleased to share these moving stories. Please note that the opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Blue Ridge PBS or the Echo channel, and be advised that some of the stories contain graphic language and stories about mental and physical abuse, so viewer discretion is advised.
We have two more, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're just continuing to blow minds, y'all. So, how are you doing? How are you? Okay. It's just like non-stop up in her. Okay. Our next storyteller, second-time Hoot and Holler storyteller. She's a Roanoke native and proud mother of three, second-time storyteller, and excited to be back on the Hoot and Holler stage. Also, this would be a time for a potential trigger warning, just to be aware. Please welcome outspoken, beautiful Kiesha Preston.
My name is Kiesha Preston, and I am a domestic violence survivor. That is an important and relevant part of this particular story. However, that is not the entirety of my story. In 2016, I ended an abusive relationship with no job, $0 in the bank, and 3 kids who I needed to take care of. I was subjected to extreme post-relationship abuse, which took the form of financial sabotage, and ultimately resulted in my home going into foreclosure and my credit getting completely destroyed. For about a full year after figuring out that I wasn't going to be able to save my house, I applied for various apartments on an almost daily basis, like it was my full-time job. And despite the fact that by that time I had gotten a really good job and I was more than capable of paying rent, I kept consistently getting turned away because I did not meet the credit check requirements. The clock was ticking for me and my kids to leave our home, and I was quickly running out of options. So with 2 weeks left before we literally would have been out on the street, I caved in and I contacted a slumlord. We moved into a home with faulty electricity and a roof that was on the verge of caving in. I actually believe it finally did cave in about a week after we left. We hated every moment of being in that particular home, but the alternative was going into a shelter or pitching a tent on the side of the road, so we were grateful for it. In 2019, I felt a responsibility to make sure that what happened to me didn't happen to anyone else, so I wrote a bill, and I changed state law to prevent victims of financial abuse from facing housing discrimination as a result of their abusers ruining their credit. In February of 2020, that bill became state law. And a few weeks later, I was invited by National Network to End Domestic Violence to speak as a panelist in a congressional briefing on violence against women to share my experience with congressmen and their staffers. I got that invite, and I remember thinking, wow, 2020 is going to be the best year ever, right? Around that time, there were also murmurs on the news about COVID-19, but at that point, it hadn't made its way to America yet, and we were still being told that it probably wasn't anything we needed to worry about. So on the day of my congressional briefing, I remember walking through the halls of the House of Representatives and for the first time ever, seeing people greet each other with elbow bumps opposed to shaking hands. There was a feeling of concern and almost panic in the air, and I remember for the first time ever feeling genuinely afraid and thinking to myself, if these people who are running the country are this uneasy right now, this might actually be something that we need to take seriously. I delivered my speech, I hopped on the Amtrak, I came back home, I walked through my door, I turned on the news, and literally, as soon as I got back home from DC, a stay-at-home order was issued. Some people put their bodies to good use during the lockdown, exercising, getting stuff done around the house. I was not one of those people. I sat my body on the couch and I binge watched The Tiger King. Did y'all hear they found Carol Baskin's husband alive this year? I know, I was honestly a little disappointed. I was low-key rooting for her to have fed him to the tigers. I'm an introvert and an extremely, almost always exhausted single mom of 3, and I am very much at peace with never leaving my house. So when they told us to stay at home, honestly, I was just like, bet, this is my moment to shine. With the exception of occasionally leaving my house to go fight people over the last roll of toilet paper, I, for the most part, stayed put. My midsection, however, did not. I gained about 40 pounds during the lockdown, but as somebody who identifies as incredibly body positive, I honestly never felt self-conscious about it. Not until about 2 years later, when I got an invite to speak at a celebrity fundraising dinner in New York. I woke up one morning in late August with an email from a woman named Celine Bonner. She was in Paris, France, and according to this email, she was the president and CEO of the Caring Foundation. If you're not familiar with the Caring Foundation, they are the parent company that owns all the major luxury fashion brands like Gucci, Alexander McQueen, YSL. According to this email, they were hosting a celebrity fundraising dinner at the conclusion of Fashion Week New York, and I was being invited to deliver the keynote address. I just knew this was a phishing scam. I actually almost deleted the email and sent it to spam until I read at the very end of it that their charitable cause was domestic violence and that the funds that they were raising were going to be benefiting National Network to End Domestic Violence. At that point, I made the connection and figured, you know what, this might be real and it might be worth giving this woman a call. So I downloaded WhatsApp, I called this woman in France, and I found out at that point that apparently Selma Hayek and Samuel L. Jackson were co-chairing the event, and somehow they had seen my remarks that I delivered to Congress and decided that they needed me to be present for this event. The next thing you know, I'm on a first-class flight to New York City. I'm being booked in a luxury suite. I'm given my own personal driver for the week. I've got my own personal glam squad who are going to be doing my hair and makeup for the event. And they're sending me to Bloomingdale's with a personal shopper and no budget to buy any dress that I want for the event. Did I mention I had no budget? It felt like my own personal Cinderella moment, and I felt so important and so excited, and then the day of the event arrives, and it was a back-to-back series of unfortunate events. First, I get to Bloomingdale's, where I discover that my personal shopper is double booked. That really wasn't a big deal. I feel like I've been training my whole life to go shopping with no budget and someone else's credit card. So I eagerly started browsing and very quickly discovered that this store has absolutely nothing I like that comes in larger than a size 12. Once upon a time in my life, I could fit into a size 8, but by this time, post-pandemic, I'm wearing about a size 14. Still no big deal, I'm thinking to myself. I am in one of the largest cities in the world. This is one of the fashion capitals in the world. I'm on 59th and Lexington, which happens to be a fashion district. So I just leave and go to one of the other stores in the vicinity, and I feel very confident that I'll be able to find something to wear. And to my surprise, I experienced the exact same dilemma everywhere else. Nothing that I like in my size. So now I'm starting to think maybe I'm just being picky. So I head back into Bloomingdale's, and I start browsing through all of the dresses, not just the ones that catch my eye. And it becomes clear to me at this point that this store actually has nothing in my size. I did manage to find one dress that I liked that was a size 14, but it was this ugly Kermit the Frog green. And I absolutely hate the color green. So I wasn't even gonna toy with the idea of trying it on. I've been shopping for about 4 hours at this point, and I have about an hour and a half before I have to be in hair and makeup. New York City traffic is gonna take up at least 30 minutes of that, so now I am panicking. I start calling the event organizers, and I'm telling them about my dilemma, so they start scrambling and trying to figure out if they know anyone last minute who might be able to produce a dress that we can borrow. We do not have any luck. I hang up the phone with them, and now I have a full-blown meltdown. I am now sitting in the middle of the floor at Bloomingdale's, Kim Kardashian ugly crying. Finally, my personal shopper is free, so she rushes over to pull me up out of the floor, and she hands me a handful of dresses that she's picked out for me. Size 10, size 12, size 10, size 12, and that ugly Kermit the Frog green dress. I tell her absolutely not to the green dress, and I reiterate that I cannot fit anything a size 12 or below. So she tells me it's fine, we'll throw a few pairs of Spanx on, and worst case scenario, we have a seamstress on site who can come do alterations and let one of the dresses out for me. So I head to the dressing room, and I actually do manage to squeeze one of the dresses on with like 4 pairs of Spanx. I look amazing, but I cannot breathe. And that is not conducive to giving a speech. So we take that off. And now the seamstress has come into my dressing room. She is literally trying to cut and sew me into a dress. Finally, she completely gives up, and we have figured out that this isn't gonna work. So at this point, I have about 45 minutes until I have to be in hair and makeup, and so I'm just like, you know what, give me the green dress. I take it and I check out. I did not even try it on, there wasn't any time. So at this point, I just needed anything to wear. My perfect day felt ruined. My confidence had been crushed. And for the first time in my entire life, I felt absolutely horrible about the body that I was in. So we get to hair and makeup, and it actually goes incredibly well. My hair and makeup turns out fabulously, and that lifts my spirits just a little bit. But now I have to go finish getting ready, and it's time for me to put on this dress. And I did not try it on while I was inside of the store, so I have no idea if it's gonna work or not. So I go into the bathroom, I put on the dress. It does fit, but I am entirely too anxious to look. I have no idea if it's flattering. I absolutely hate the color. So I finally work up the courage to step out of the bathroom, and my hair and makeup artists are just looking at me with their mouths wide open, and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's actually that bad. So now I'm coming up with a plan in my head, and I'm like, if this dress doesn't fit, or if it doesn't look well, what am I gonna do? Is there a way I can dress up a pair of the jeans that I have in my bag that I brought with me on the plane? Yeah. It's New York City, and fashion there is weird. Maybe I can just put on a robe and make that look formal somehow. So finally, one of my hair and makeup artists speaks, and they're like, oh my God, look at you. So I'm like, all right. I'm gonna have to look at some point. I know it's awful. So I finally muster up the courage. And I take a look in the mirror. And it is the most perfect dress I ever could have worn. So I arrived to this event where I walked the red carpet with Selma Hayek. I took pictures with Emma Watson. I sat directly across from Leonardo DiCaprio and Queen Rania of Jordan. And the entire evening, this room full of billionaires and celebrities are just complimenting me on how amazing I look in this dress and how well that ugly Kermit the Frog green complements my skin. And I felt absolutely amazing. I felt great getting compliments all night from this room full of New York's elite and some of the most powerful people who were in the room. But honestly, in that moment, what I looked like was the furthest thing from my mind. In that moment, I thought about everything that I had to overcome to get there, from my frantic hunt to find a dress that fit me, to leaving a relationship that made me feel so incredibly small. And in that moment, I felt like the most powerful person in the room.